First reports, Bill Ellinger from Volusia County Economic Development Department. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, all. We've been busy, Teledyne is. We'll be talking about that later.
Okay.
We've Emery and I were just talking earlier. You know, it's the governor's made a lot of changes we read about in the paper, but. When you make changes from the top down, it always gets interesting because then it's a question of how far down does the information percolate and who does what to who. So we with regard to the incentives, we're working through that. For those who were at the Palmetto, I guess it was a week or so ago, Doug Darling, who's the new head of the Department of Economic Opportunity, spoke at the prior month's chamber meeting. We had Grace Swope, who's the new head of Enterprise Florida. As we understand it, Enterprise Florida will become, who used to do marketing and most of all the incentives management before it got up to Tallahassee. And there was an organization there called OTED, O-T-T-E-D, Office of Tourism, Trade, and Economic Development. And OTED were the ones who actually handle the approval of incentives. I'm relaying this to you because they may come back. There may be things that you hear or that we have difficulties with that we're going to need assistance with. And as far as the incentives were concerned, you could go through, get the incentives for the company. It's supposed to be an incentive, you're supposed to be able to hang the carrot out there in order to make the guy make the decision. If he makes the decision, well, the state has always said the cow's in the barn and you don't need to lure them in, so they would become ineligible. So we went through a bunch of stuff with that. But it used to be that Enterprise Florida would work it up to Tallahassee and then effectively take the whole package and throw it over the wall into OTED. And OTED may take, by law, they had 10 days to approve it or disapprove it. But OTED would take 90 days, 120 days. Became very, very difficult. So it was obvious changes were needed. And I think where it's going is proper. Where you're going to see is that Enterprise Florida will become, the plan is that they will become more of the marketing agency for the state. They will work with us as they have been doing very well in terms of bringing deals up to the point so that we don't question that we don't operate in a vacuum. We're working as partners in making the deals happen. And then once we get to that point and the city and county and whatever other municipality might be involved does the approval, and we've got all the approvals in, then technically it's supposed to go to the Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO, which is headed by this fellow Doug Darling, and they're supposed to then manage the incentives from that point on through and very promptly get it done. There were some articles in the News Journal you probably saw about Teledyne when we sort of had a cub reporter for the News Journal who really didn't understand what the process was and was getting kind of excited. Well, those articles prompted, I will say it was very positive in a way in that it prompted, my phone rang one afternoon and it was Doug Darling and saying, what's this I read in this News Journal paper about problems with incentives in Enterprise Florida? So I relayed incidents. He says, does that really happen? And I said, yeah, that's what really happened. We really had a difficult time. And when a company's trying to make a decision, they want to make a decision. It's very hard to tell them, no, you can't sign the contract for the building. You can't sign the lease until we go through this 3 to 4 month process of getting your incentive approved. So I think that was very good thing. I know Emery was there with the luncheon. We had an opportunity to discuss those issues and the processing issues with Mr. Darling, who has been involved in state government. As an adjunct to that, we then took him over to Jim Cameron, really was the great helper in all of this. We've had this sort of committee that's been working on mapping out what are our IT options, internet, what is the internet capability. And the Speedway and some of the other organizations have really jumped in and pitched in to try to help us. And we've actually got people like Bright House and AT&T talking to each other, and some of the others now, they're saying they would never tell anybody where their fiber optics were. But now we're getting to the point, because basically what we said is we want a map. And we want a map of where all of the fiber optics are in the county. We know that the school board, for instance, has a complete fiber optic loop around the county. I don't know whether you knew that or not, that every single school is connected to their fiber optic network. And their network that they have has excess capability. Part of it is theirs, part of it is contracted out through other companies. And we sort of have always felt that IT, information technology, has been one of our weak points in terms of our employment base. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
We've talked about this a little bit. I mean, we have about 1,500 jobs in the county relating to IT, which is pathetic. We should have, as a percentage, we should have a minimum of 15,000. And the only way to do that is to focus. The only way to do that is to know what your assets are. So you can say to a company, we have the ability to give you T3 lines, T5 lines. This is the capability. Here's the map. This is available, and to develop a program in order to target it. So we brought Mr. Darling over to the Speedway, where we discussed these issues with him. It turns out that the state is also in the process of trying to do a map statewide of where all of the fiber optics are and all of that capability. So there's should be some synergy, although I think we know more at this point than they do about Volusia County. That's okay. That'll keep going. We were then invited him. He came over and met with, came over to our office, met with Rick Carl, Helen Cawthon, and Kent Sharples. And we had a discussion about economic development and what we're doing in the county, how we're working together, or we would like to work together going forward, and that we know where we had issues, we would be able to go talk to him about it. And so all in all, it was an incredibly successful day, I think, for Volusia County. He certainly knows we're here. He got a very good insight into the businesses that are here and what our issues are in terms of going forward and what the state can do in order to assist us and better work with us. So we owe a lot of thanks to Jim Cameron and the Chamber for actually going forward and making that all possible, including meetings with Grace Swope, which pretty much went the same way. So other than that, and we're talking about, and Mr. McNerney's here. Good morning. And we wanted to, we're working on Teledyne. We have some other deals. Nothing we can talk about. It's all confidentialities, but we've all been pretty busy. So, and that's the end of my report.
Where is the status on the map part that you're asking for?
Well, it's at a preliminary stage. We're gathering data.
Okay.
There are a number of different companies that provide fiber optics in the county.
Right.
So school board has been very upfront with this and very helpful. And we've gotten Bright, we actually, as I said, we're at a point now where Bright House and AT&T are talking to each other and are willing to give us the information. In the past, if you asked about capability, they would say, well, don't worry about it. We'll get it there. But we need to know. We need to be able to have that resource in our pocket. I think it's going to be a few months away before we really have something definitive that we'll want to market. But other than that, we're doing that. That's all for me.
Questions? Anyone? Follow up? You mean you're just going to let that lay there? That was
All I
wonderful.
can tell you is I was in Death Valley last year in a resort in the middle of Death Valley, which is only really one resort because it has water, and had a T1 line. Which I got on my computer and it was like flash, flash, flash. It was crazy. And I'm saying if they can put a T1 line out in the middle of Death Valley, we ought to be able to have one in Daytona Beach.
Well, and like you said, it's up to like T4 and 5 now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable what they can do.
fiber optic in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
That's great.
But
Thank
this
you,
is
Phil.
Florida.
Terrific. Carrie, good morning. I'm
Good morning.
glad to see you. We'll have your report if you'd like.
Yep. Well, last I was here, I shared that we had launched our website, or we're in the midst of it, I believe, and that GIS planning tool. So that is off and live, and of course, that was not to be an end in of itself. As the director of recruitment and expansion, I've sat down with Helen and said, you know, I've got to get to doing what the title reflects. I've had the privilege to sit with Phil and his team weekly. Going to begin to continue to do that. They have Tuesday marketing meetings where I can come and we can all kind of discuss ideas on what kind of marketing items would work best. Because we're in the midst of that cluster analysis, which really is going to help us identify those targets, like Phil said, whether it's IT, software development. I think even still today, right now, I can begin to make cold calls, which is what I'm going to be doing, just cold calling those businesses that seem to make sense. I'd say it makes sense to look at what existing inventory we have to offer, so that if I do get someone on the line, I know they can go in some sort of space. We are limited by what our real estate inventory looks like in the present moment. Of course, long term, we hope to develop out some new things. That was another conversation had with the county. So that's what we're up to. That's what I'm going to be up to. And sorry I was late.
Thank you. Any other questions, follow-up? We saw the full page
Yeah, that was
spread you guys put.
Yeah, that actually the News Journal donated that space.
Oh, really? Good.
Mhm. Yeah, asked to do that.
Oh, that was, it was interesting. I kept it.
Yeah.
You have the list of all the people in the community who are part of that, so, good. Anything else? Anybody? Vision Committee?
Yeah, what we're doing now is we've got a couple. The main thrust or the main effort we've got going on now is investigating a way to provide health care services for the working uninsured. And that's a large sector of our population. It affects about 20 to 25% of the population between 18 and 64. And I say that because if you're 18 or under, you're covered under Healthy Kids, and if you're over 65, of course, you're covered under Medicare. So these are people that are above the line on Medicaid, and their company or the company they work for doesn't provide health care services, or if they do it for fee, and they choose not to opt in because they just don't make enough money to pay for the insurance. And so we've got that effort has been going on now for about 5 to 6 months in earnest. We have a committee that's working on that. They've traveled to Palm Bay to look at one model, Jacksonville to look at another model, trying to put together groups within the area to find a champion that will actually come out in the forefront to champion the concept. Vision is basically, since we don't really have any money, we're not going to be looking at being the organizing entity. What we want to try to do is to sponsor the organizing entity by putting together different entities within the county or different people in order to get the idea moving. And we're almost to that stage. I would think we're probably a few months from being at that stage. And still fact-finding, still trying to put together those groups. So I would think that probably by the first quarter next year, we will have a plan in place, and probably at least one person, if not one group, that will act as a champion. And I think that's legitimate to happen. Other efforts, we're looking at the new code, the LDC, and we have a group committee working on that. Have another group looking at the historic preservation effort in Daytona Beach as it relates to the vision document. Still have one on education. That hasn't been doing that much lately. And we're looking at taking up the train effort again. And I don't know. I don't know if you were going to talk about that at all.
No, go, no.
Okay, there's a meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 at Jim Cameron's office in the chamber related to the Amtrak effort. I talked to Kim Delaney Monday. She will not be there. She's got some other, but she'll be available by phone. I think Mike has got a representative there, and I think Mrs. White is going to represent the city commission, and I'm not exactly sure who else. You'll be there?
Yes.
Okay. So, in other words, I guess that the decision is how much economic development this will spawn, and will it pay for itself in the long run? Even if the Amtrak or the state DOT or whoever, the FDOT, pays for a station, okay, the upkeep and the administration of that station would be borne by either the city or a private enterprise. And so is that going to be feasible? And so we'll be looking at that as well. We may be talking to you, Phil, about, if there are any other types of incentives or whatever available. May not be because it's so close governmentally. But I think that's going to be, we're bringing it back out of the closet, because evidently it is dusted itself off, and it's evidently back in play because there's federal money available. So that's the only reason why it's back in play.
Right. Well, we'll find out more after tomorrow, too, and going forward. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's just back up in the front. Sure. Phil?
Are they zeroed in on the location? I mean, is it going to be sort of back where the original station was?
Well, I think that the location is pretty much still in that initial, the number one choice, which is right there at Magnolia, and between ISB and Orange. But there still is proponents for the secondary source, which would be Mary McLeod Bethune. Okay, in between that and George Ingram on, I'm trying to think what street is that? Charles. Okay.
My point for that was because if wherever that they zero in on, at least that original location, I don't think it was in any of the city CRAs. And as they go forward, you might want to talk to Reed Berger, because I would think that that's an absolute natural for an expansion or an amendment of a CRA boundary to include the train station and the immediate area around for transportation-oriented development. The purpose of that is take a blighted area and allow you then to reinvest the money and make it better. Mm-hmm. And I can't think of a better concept or idea for a CRA, whether it doesn't have to be a new one. It could be an expansion. I don't think any of them go west in that area, go west of US 1.
It actually is in a CRA.
Is it good?
Yes, it's in the downtown.
Oh, downtown.
It's,
Okay.
it's on the west side of the tracks. There is, there may be some plans to do some development on the east side of the tracks as well. In any case, it will impact both CRAs, Midtown and downtown. You're correct. When we went through the exercise, I believe there were 5 locations that were singled out. The one at Magnolia was rated, there's a particular term that we used in that report, and it was rated number 1. We are taking a look at how the train station itself would site what might be a natural outgrowth of that, and what might be a natural outgrowth of that. The meeting tomorrow is designed to kind of take a look at the political strength that we might be able to marshal up for this effort. Phil and Larry, you're correct. It's not done. Where this is coming from, there was a PRIA report released done by Amtrak that said of all of the possible places they could expand in the nation, this seemed to be the most promising in terms of being able to be on its own, make money, or what have you. So we're going to explore those efforts and do what we can in order to try to make it here.
Thank you. Like I said, we'll find out a lot more after tomorrow, but thanks, Phil, for your comments. Any other comments on this?
Is that meeting open?
Yeah, I believe.
I suppose it would be,
Sure,
sure.
it's at the chamber office, so sure.
Yeah, I'm not in charge of it, but hey,
Yeah,
come
we-
on
it's
by.
just- Yeah, we're going to show up, so.
Just bring your own coffee.
All right, let's go on. I know we're going to have quite a bit of discussion on the ad valorem tax.
Well, what I've prepared for you is Resolution 0271, which amended Resolution 96-289. If you go about the third page in that document, you'll see Exhibit A. Under terms, it talks about what a new business needs to create, 10 or more jobs. Then if they're establishing 25 or more jobs or 50 or more jobs, it kind of goes up the scale in terms of what you can grant or consider to grant. If we go to the next page, we talk about an expansion of an existing business. The 10 jobs or the 25 jobs are. You can use your imagination to go if we're doing 500 jobs or 1,000 jobs or what have you. At the bottom of that page, it talks about the maximum percentage of tax abatement. We are well beyond these figures, so we are doing a natural progression in the recommendations that we're utilizing here at the board. I want to say the 115% is like $17.43 an hour. So we're well above this. So again, we use this as a guideline. I do think that we're within the guidelines. What it does not have here is a recommendation regarding the duration of the exemption package, and we've kind of taken that. We kind of look at the capital investment, the number of jobs, the value of the average annual wage, and we make a recommendation to the board. That recommendation then goes forward to the city commission. And so that's kind of how it works. Now, in the last, I guess we're going to have that a little later. But at the last meeting, we talked a little bit about Benedict advertising. If you recall, we were kind of asking for some direction to see if we were going to look at this kind of a, given that this is dated and maybe there's a need to take a look at trying to do something for businesses like this to help them sustain in our community, what would it look like? And so we were pushing that around the table for a minute. I do have information that Benedict Advertising has put their expansion on hold, so it's a moot point at this point. But it's an interesting question if we want to pose that in perhaps a workshop or something like that to get to kind of dig into. So that's my report.
So this does not require any action on our part.
No, sir. It's just to keep you
information.
advised.
So this resolution was adopted in 2002, so maybe we do need to look at
We can take a
what
look at
we're talking
updating it.
about. Yeah,
Yeah.
and update it and then come up with other guidelines that we were discussing last.
Sure.
So what action would people like to take on this?
Well, let me ask you a question. So this doesn't have a capital expansion requirement. In other words, the amount of capital or
This is
business
it.
expansion equipment.
This is it right here.
I said this does not have that.
No.
Okay. So if a company comes in and they create 100 jobs, great. But if they just run a place, or you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, but if they came in and built a $10 million facility and put $5 million of equipment.
No, this does not have that. But as when I was getting into the field and talking with Phil and the guys in economic development, you need a little flexibility if a business comes in and they don't need this incentive. They need this incentive, or they need something else. So you put your package together based on what the company needs. If they're making a huge capital investment, we certainly want to weigh that, and that information comes to you as the Economic Development Advisory Board that you can then weigh, and that plays into what we ultimately recommend to the City Commission. So no, we don't have stayed guidelines for that, but
Well, that's what we were talking about last time. Would you like to have those kinds of guidelines that we can help you set up? Or will it
perhaps
tie- or
perhaps
will
we
it-
should dig into it in a workshop and talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
The business that's making a $100,000 capital investment that is creating 50 jobs and that has an annual wage of $60,000 may be completely different from another business showing that same profile. They may need totally different things. So whether to lock us into something.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, but perhaps it's a workshop that
Okay.
we need to kick around a little bit.
Okay.
Another question is, at this time, when this resolution was passed, the Brownfield ordinance had not been passed, correct?
That's correct.
So we probably also need to look at that if we're going to
Well,
put a capital component in there.
The latest brownfields were not passed.
Yeah.
We did have some, yes.
Right, but the latest Brownfield ordinance. So with that in mind, especially if we put a capital expansion component to this, we want to look to how that interfaces with the Brownfield.
Yeah. We can talk to you about the packages that put together. I mean, but sometimes they look differently.
Well, Emery, I'm sorry. Would you like to say
Oh, no,
something?
I'll wait. Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I know you're probably going to maybe set up a workshop for it, but I just thought I'd share, when we did have Enterprise Florida here to share about incentives, I thought it was interesting and really a good thing that they've really tried to stress for incentives. They look at how much new money that business brings into the local economy. So jobs aside, that's all well and good, but if they are getting their revenue from the local population, that money's just circulating. We're just handing it back and forth to each other. Whereas the Teledyne's, injecting a huge amount of capital into the economy, which ends up in our pockets, and then we spend that at the local restaurants. It's not just being handed off to one another. That's how you grow an economy.
Very good point, Carrie. And that is that statistic is on our application. It is also on the state application. So we do count that in too. So how many factors are you going to use in your matrix in order to come up with a solution here? And let's suppose the company says, "Hey, listen, I only need 3 years of X, Y, Z." Well, you're making me take 6 or 10 or whatever. I don't want to lock us into something that is too staid. We need the flexibility to be able to respond to business wants and needs. But we do have a guideline. I think you guys do a very good job in terms of looking at the information in the applications and then making a good recommendation. So.
Well, my gut feeling is we don't need a workshop to talk about a whole bunch of stuff unless you feel like there needs to be some changes made.
I'll tell you what I can do. I can take a look at this, and the next step would be to take it to the City Commission and what have you. Prior to it going any other place, it would come here. So
Right.
perhaps I could bring something back that might be at least to update the
Figures.
wage figures.
Right.
So.
And that may be all that's necessary. I mean, everybody has so much work to do now. Let's don't add to that
Yes, ma'am.
unless it's necessary. So that's a good idea. Why don't you just look through it and come back to us and
Yes, ma'am.
let us know what we can, next step from there. Is that all right with everybody?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Next thing on the agenda is our market study report. Emery and I got together after the last meeting and talked a little bit about it, and he has nailed down January 12th at the police headquarters as the spot that we're going to do this.
Yes.
And we did talk about a draft. Did you? You were going to give me a
I
copy
did.
of that, and you didn't do that.
I did.
Okay.
I did not have the draft agenda. We did talk about a draft agenda. I can send that out. It looked good, but I'll have to send that out to you.
Yeah,
to the
with the
group.
number of people we talked about and who we wanted to invite, and not make this a regular economic advisory board meeting, but just make it really a civic event for the city,
Right.
and send out specific invitations and what on the marketing strategies you and I and we would like to talk about, and I'd like to start getting some of this information out so that we can get a lot of people show up for this, because I think it would be a really informative. And the reason that we're doing it in January, again, to refresh your memory, is because the News Journal Market Study Report comes out towards the end of the year. And they'll have it in November, and that'll be a good thing to, have on the agenda to talk about during the meeting. So we're going forward, and we don't have old information. We've got a whole bunch of new information.
One of the perspectives we thought was we have the various economic development organizations, Team Volusia, we have Volusia County, we have the cities, we have the CEO of Business Alliance. We've not seen that panel at one place at one time, so we thought we would do something like that to make a splash, to have them kind of define where they are. You can kind of see the interplay, and I think we were thinking that was a good piece.
Right.
So are we looking at having the News Journal divulge their economic information?
Well, last time they had, and I've got our agenda from last time, they had the market study report from News
Right.
Journal, and it was the last one thing on the agenda, but it was all old stuff from the prior year. So what they will have is this market study report that will be finished I guess by this month or next month. So
Yes.
it'll be ready in January. And I want to frame it around that with each of the organizations to show up and really have a long discussion session, so that we have question and answers, and not just another report that we all walk away from.
Okay, well, I just didn't know if we had made arrangements with
Yes.
them to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, we've talked with them.
Yes,
and-
we have.
Good.
It was
Or Emery has, I should say.
Yes. We it was a little. Sarah Barubi is now Sarah Bates, so I was calling for Barubi, and of
Oh.
course, but yes, I did get a call back from her, and she has consented to be a part of our program.
Okay. And in the meantime, since it looks like we're having a meeting in November, so we will have a lot of stuff done, especially on the marketing stuff and the types of things that we want to send out, and make
Yes.
sure that we blanket the community, use the chamber, use whatever else that we can think of to get a really good turnout at this meeting. So if you all have any other ideas, throw it out here, or let me know, or let Emery know, and
Yes.
we'll go from there. Okay? Because I really want this to be a good kickoff meeting that we're sponsoring, that we're putting on for the entire year. Okay? Yes.
Should you maybe contact some of the other boards in the city and see if they can contact their members, so that
Sure. Good idea. Thank you. We'll do that. All right. Anything else, Phil?
I suggest you plan on inviting the chamber.
Oh, absolutely. They're already on the
I mean,
agenda.
they need to be on the dais or the table or whoever in the discussion. So we've got some
Yes.
neat
If I had the
initiatives
draft.
going there.
Yeah, if you had given
If I
me
had-
the
if I
draft,
had the draft.
we had talked about this, and that,
It does include the chamber.
definitely. No, thanks, Phil.
Carol, we talked last time about the venue. Do we ever reconsider using the police station or using an alternative venue?
Yeah, I think, Emery, you did look
We
into
did.
a couple.
We kind of pushed it around a little bit. We don't know what we're going to get since we're going to market a lot earlier, rather. And we're going to have the added draw of the 3 or 4 or 5 or economic development agencies and boards and what have you. So we thought maybe keep it there this time and see what happens.
Yeah, we had thought about just having it, downstairs here or in here, but
Or
there's
News
just not
Journal
large
Center.
enough. Yeah, and
News
we
Journal
talked
Center
about
was-
the News Journal
was
also.
the other
Well, it gives you
option.
2 venues. You can use it, either that conference room we use if it's a smaller
Right, the
venue.
small one or the larger
Or the
one.
larger one.
Yeah, and it was there last year, so it might help reinforce,
And I'm a little concerned about the parking.
Yeah.
That's only going to be the only challenge because I
Well,
think
they
the parking
open
in
up
that
that
area.
parking after hours like that in the back too, so we can talk to them about that. That's a good point. Yeah, we'll do that.
Do you think this should be mentioned at these next city commission meetings?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's on television and.
Definitely. Wherever we can promote this time, I think we ought to try to do it. I mean, that's city commission for sure.
Okay.
Anything else on this? Any other ideas? I mean, throw them out here, email us, do whatever. If you come up with an idea one afternoon, just,
Emery, does the city here do, with the water bill, you can put in a little mailer?
Yes.
right, we're going to do that. We're also going to talk with Susan Serban and get her areas, in the city, that weekly thing that she puts out about the weekly events. So, yeah, good idea. We'll try all of these things.
Yes. I'm making note.
Okay.
No, but I think if,
draft report.
I think
Yeah.
I think if you mention it at the city commission meetings, you should mention it each one so that's kind of hammered into them.
Right. And also at each board meeting, like you said, let's send out notices to every board meeting.
Yeah, but if you get it on the commission calendar,
Right.
that'll take care of a lot
A
of
lot
that,
of that.
Ruth.
Right, exactly. Okay, thank you. Let's go on to the Teledyne ad valorem tax.
Yes, you have before you the application from Teledyne. I should make it ODI. That was a requirement from the state of Florida. We've been going back and forth with the state of Florida. Phil kind of described some of the machinations that have to happen. There's also another organization that when the business tries to collect on the incentive that we've okayed, it's processed through another organization, Sharp & Brunson, and that's another layer of where things can be confused. Take a few moments to review the application. I'll go through it. We do have Mr. Dick McNerney here today to talk about Teledyne. He appeared at our last meeting, but he wanted to be here today to support this. And so he's in the audience, if you'd like to bring him up.
Madam Chairman, you need a motion? You need a motion?
What do we need here?
You could take a motion.
Just take a motion to approve.
I make a motion to
what's here?
approve.
That's pretty. That's okay.
All in
That
favor?
McDermott.
We're going to have discussion first?
Yeah, discussion. Actually, I haven't had a chance to really look at this. Yeah, I'm
Who's
sorry.
second? That was you?
Mr. McNerney might want to. Mr. McNerney might want to speak.
Everything. It's going to get trimmed down.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Discussion.
Wow, we're going to save a lot of time.
Would you like to come forward, please?
Can't ask for too much at this point. So you picked apart every level moving forward.
Right. Now, just for the record, you're supposed to give your name, address, and all
Yes.
that stuff.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everybody. Dick McNerney. I'm with the Commercial Industrial Real Estate Division of Adams Cameron Real Estate Office here in town, and have represented what we all know as ODI, and now is Teledyne. We appreciate all your support in the past and now at the present. And as Phil and I, with Phil's help last week, 2 weeks ago, we went before the county council and received unanimous support for all the various incentives that we made application for, and I am just here to tell you that the guys at ODI, Teledyne, Mike Reed, Mark Greenlaw are very appreciative of all your support, and look to maybe construct this new building, start the construction of it the first quarter of next year, and they'll have a very substantial investment in the probably $7 million range, and with the goal of employing another 100, putting on another 100 employees in the next 36 months. So again, we thank you for all your support in the past and today, and look forward to this project moving forward ASAP. So thank you very much.
Any questions after you kind of review some of this?
Well, there was, I guess, the competition is what, New Hampshire?
It is, possibly California. But we
Okay.
think, we've put an incentive package, or Phil has put an incentives package together with everyone's support that I don't think anybody can touch us, but nothing is signed to date. But we're very confident that this is all going to work out in our
And it's going to entail a business building expansion?
52,000 feet, yes, standalone, adjacent to the existing Ocean Design facility.
And they own the facility now, right?
No, currently they're tenants.
Oh, the tenants who,
They
Joe
will be-
Fisher?
They will, yeah, Fisher's family, which is now
Fisher,
considered
yeah.
Fisher's Properties, as we know it. But
Is
yes.
that what the name is, Fisher Properties now? Oh, that's good
For
enough for
the-
me. I mean, that's okay.
For the
well,
immediate time period.
It's actually Tiki Supreme and
Is it
Tiki
still
Williamson,
Okay.
but everybody knows the family is, and I was with Mrs. Fisher yesterday, and she's very involved in this project, which is very, is encouraging. Any other question?
I know it's in here somewhere, but I can't find it. How many more people do you think you'll be hiring?
They have in the range of 300 plus at this time, and they will add another 100 employees.
Okay.
The way since it's a separate building, it's to be as they describe it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the global headquarters for research and development for Teledyne Oil and Gas. Now, it was originally Ocean Design, Inc., which was bought out by Teledyne Technologies. So it's now Teledyne ODI, Inc. They intend to change the legal umbrella structure to Teledyne Oil and Gas. So you'll see Teledyne Oil and Gas, but Teledyne Oil and Gas is not a legal entity. It's Teledyne ODI, Inc., which is the legal entity involved with the incentives.
Now, this is a public company?
Teledyne is, yes.
Yeah.
Teledyne. So this is a subsidiary of a public company?
Correct.
Okay. But what you want is on page 3.
Yeah, I found it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is this, I have just a quick question for Phil maybe. Is this the first exercise of the brownfield incentive since we expanded the brownfield to encompass that area?
No, I think Crane Performance was.
That's correct.
No, actually, no. We didn't actually use the incentive for International Speedway, but it was created at that time for them when they were going to do the Daytona Live project. Is that reasonably
not
correct?
for them.
Well, no, I mean, they were very interested in making sure it was available.
Yes.
I don't remember that.
We don't want to say it that
Oh,
way.
stop, everybody. We want to-
Withdrawn, Your Honor.
Because I know they have start over your question.
Yeah, my question was, is this the first time since we expanded that brownfield to encompass that area that we've actually used that incentive?
Go ahead.
No.
Emery.
We've used it for Crane Performance products.
And in reference to the ISC comment, I don't ever remember our debating of expanding the brownfield at the ISC Daytona Live was ever part of this board's debate. Does anyone here remember that?
I think that was before even they started talking about expanding the brownfield.
It may have been within the same time frame, but it was not a factor
Right.
that we used here. Just to go back to the, if you have any more questions for Mr. McNerney.
I wanted to answer that question. I think it came off the Fentress extension. Okay? And I think that's where it came down from.
Okay, well,
And down through Dunn Avenue to
any other
the...
questions?
Do they currently own this land now, or they're under contract?
No, the Fisher family
Fisher family.
owns this property.
Okay.
And
So
they
this is going to be a leasehold.
originally we constructed the building we did it all on the come at that time and consolidated Ocean Design's original businesses out of Ormond Beach into this one facility. But the Fisher family owns this property, and Teledyne will become a long-term tenant as they are currently.
Okay.
Okay, and then my question, I guess it's for you and for Emery as well. The amount of tax abatement being requested from the city of Daytona Beach is just for the new improvements that are to
That's
be
correct.
placed on it? It's not going to
correct.
actually be on the land value? So the land is still, in my interpretation, will still be on the tax rolls and taxed?
Yes. And I guess your next question would be, how can the company who doesn't own the land benefit from the incentive? And we have worked with legal, and we've done this in the past. And in fact, it came up during our negotiations with Radon, how we could pass that through to the company and not let it adhere to the owner of the property. So that piece has already been worked out. But yes, you're correct. It's only for the new, what is added.
Rick, if you're in a triple net rent situation and the tenant is responsible for the taxes, then the legal application allows the tenant to enjoy that discount or that abatement, but not the landlord.
Exactly. I guess the important thing for us to understand is that there's no value coming off of the tax rolls. There's no, I mean, the tax-based value that currently exists is still going
That's
to
correct.
exist. It's just, we're just abating the amount that is
Of
added
Of
on
city
the
taxes.
improvements.
Of city
improvements,
taxes.
yes.
For the
Okay.
2,000-foot expansion,
Yes.
basically. Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Call for the question.
One more.
Let me. I wanted to, not for Mr. McNerney, but in this, the ad valorem tax schedule that we're using is year 1 and 2, 100%. Years 3 and 4, 75%. Years 5 and 6, 50%. And year 7, 25%. So in your motion to approve this, we would need you to specifically mention, reference that range, that schedule.
Okay, well, I'm in my motion to
Reference the schedule.
reference and schedule if the seconder will
Okay.
change theirs. Who's seconded?
I second
John.
the amendment.
Yes.
No further discussion. Call for a vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again. Nice to
Thank
see
you for
everybody.
coming this morning again.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. New business? Citizens' comments out there? Anybody? Our scheduled next meeting is Wednesday, November 16th. That's okay with everyone. And then the 2012 schedule looks pretty good for right now, so I guess we're okay with that, right?
At this point. If there's a need to change a meeting, we can.
Right.
But, yeah.
Let's
Case
go
by
around the
case.
table. Comments? Larry?
None.
Tom?
I'm good.
Everybody? Good morning. Yes, sir.
Just
Bill?
one last thing on Ocean Design. One of the things that I find really intriguing about the whole company and the project, it's a startup. It's a Volusia County startup. They started in a garage in Holly Hill, and they expanded to the point where they moved to a building up at the Ormond Industrial Park, and 2 buildings, 3 buildings, 4 buildings, 5 buildings. And in 2002, we went through a real, I didn't work as closely with Emery then, I barely knew him because I just come on board, but we had a real battle to keep them in Volusia County. They were going to move to Seminole
I
County.
remember that, yeah.
Their principals were English and Scots and wanted to be closer to Orlando International, and they wanted to move down that way because the very first project when I joined Economic Development in 2002 was to go find a site for ocean design so they don't move out of Volusia County. And it was Dick left, but that was a real partnership between the city of Daytona Beach at that time, Consolidated Tomoka, and the county to create that. And in order to create that facility, so they moved from Ormond to the city, which of course has been great. And now to watch them, and they still have room to build another 50,000 feet there on their existing building, and to watch them continually focus on Daytona Beach and the workforce. Mark Greenlaw is the CFO. They've been hiring engineers from the Space Center. They find that there's some very transferable knowledge between space and undersea. And you think about it, never thought about it that way, but there you're talking, they've heard, I don't know how many, he told me 7 or 8. They've already hired out of the Space Center at well over $100,000 a year jobs. So that's just, this whole thing of me is just something to treasure and enjoy because the community has hung in there with them and they're still here.
Thank you for that.
That's
No,
it.
that's true. I'm glad you reminded us of that. So, any other comments, questions?
Move for adjournment?
Yep. Oh, Murphy, I thought you said Mr. Chairman. I'm going,
Move for adjournment.
Mr. Chairman,
It's really important.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Good work.
Good morning. I guess, are we on live? Yes, we are. Just before we get started this morning with the Economic Development Advisory Board meeting for October 19th, if you all please will talk directly into your microphones because I guess they have a new system and we need to have the microphone right in front of you if that's okay. All right. Good morning all. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call please.
Yeah, Tim Davis.
Here.
Carl Lentz.
Here.
Thomas Vaughn.
Here.
Carol Killian.
Here.
Ruth Traeger.
Here.
Larry McDermott.
Here.
Bishop Derek Triplett. We have a quorum.
May I hear approval of minutes from August 17th?
Motion to approve.
Vaughn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.